Yo, 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 Jordan, before we get into some basketball action, I want to talk to you about some big football games we had this weekend.
What?
All right, so Jordan,
Hey,
there was a big
hey.
game hear me out, hear me out. This is news because this is people are digging into the rule books, Jordan. There was a big non-call at the end of the New Orleans Saints versus LA Rams game where it was about 2 minutes left. It was third down for the Saints. They passed it to an open receiver in the corner, and the Rams player intentionally smashed into him, and it was an obvious pass interference call that was not called and which would have basically sealed the game for the Saints. But instead, they ended up going to overtime and losing the game. So, the city of New Orleans and their New Orleans Saints season seat holders are now filing
The
a
city,
lawsuit.
like literally the city of New Orleans and their fans. Not even like the New Orleans Saints and their organization. They're getting their fans to do it for them.
Yeah, it's literally their season seat holders. There's apparently a group of them, and they're getting together, and they filed a lawsuit against the NFL for this non-call. I know the NBA refs can be bad sometimes, but these NFL refs, is this still the replacement refs, or are these real refs out there?
Those are real refs, 100%.
Yeah, because I remember when they had random people's dads and gym coaches ref in the league for a while. That was bad. So these real referees, they got this lawsuit against them now because according to a clause in the NFL rulebook, Rule 17 as they call it, the commissioner has the authority if he finds that there was a call or a miscall that was so outrageously bad and obvious that was in the incorrect call. He has the power to make the teams replay the game from the point where that obvious miscall happened. He has that authority if it impacts the outcome of the game. So, literally, if they win this lawsuit, we might be replaying the last minute 49 of the Saints versus Rams game before we have a Super Bowl Sunday. Jordan, is this legit? Shall we run it back?
Oh, there's no way this happens. There's absolutely no way. And you know what? It's missed calls happen all the time in sports. Does this rule even like exist outside of NFL? Like, this is just such a weird classic NFL rule.
Yeah.
Like, does it make any sense for them to play it? Like, look, they lost, all right? Look, maybe the refs did give it to them. But all I'm saying is that, like, these things happen, and you have to live with it. And there's nothing else you can do. No amount of lawsuits or petitions is going to try and get your team back in the playoffs. And what? What, gets spanked by the Patriots? Because you know, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. So it's all that's going to happen.
Well, man, it sucks if you're a Saints fan. You know, I know there's a lot of times NBA fans wish that they could go and file a lawsuit against the NBA refs too. I know as a Raptors fan, I see that all the time. But I think that, like, you know, we should run this back. That rule is in place for a reason. Sure, it's a bum rule, but, like, it's there. This is literally the occasion and the reason why that rule is put in place, seeing as the player himself admitted that he was not going for the ball and that he intentionally wanted to get a pass interference call so that he would prevent them from getting a touchdown. And
So you're just going to take advantage of rules that are silly and don't make sense? That's like those rules where it's like you can't have a gorilla skydive out of a plane.
Oh yeah,
Like,
those
that's a
random
rule
rules.
used to be in the States. Like, in
Yeah.
certain states, you can't. It's illegal to have a gorilla skydive out of a plane. So just because it's a rule doesn't mean I'm gonna
Oh, man.
enforce it. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, you know what? Maybe something that they can look at now is the instant replay rules. Because I found out the morning after that they're not allowed to review a pass interference call. I mean, we're sitting there watching replays week after week of the most random things. But here in the actual championship game, like the division or conference championship game, they're not allowed to challenge or review that play. I think that's kind of where the system's broke, and that's maybe where they can target to fix this so it doesn't happen again.
Pretty sure there's going to be a rule that outrules the rule that you guys are trying to sue the NFL with.
You guys? You lumping me in there now. Jordan, I jumped.
Yeah, you're doing right.
You know I jumped.
It's a basketball podcast. That is
yeah.
sacrilege, my man.
All right. Well, man, let's forget about that football. Let's give and go.
Let's give and go.
Beautiful basketball, the Sixers are both give and go.
NBA give and go.
And welcome back to another episode of the Give and Go podcast. This is one half of your dream team, Rajan Sharma, and I'm here with my boy, Jordan Taylor. Jordan, what's good?
Always the second half of the dream team, never the first half. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Oh, we getting into this again, huh? Hey, we giving and going.
Always the pip.
It's the give and go, man.
Always the pip into your My name's Jordan. That's crazy.
Yeah. Whoa. No, we rolling like I'm the Kobe. You can be Shaq. All right. How about that?
Oh my God. I was really scared you were gonna say something like Smush Parker.
I thought about Kwame, but I thought I'd give you a little more credit than that. You know, I see you back on the basketball court now. I was like, all right, cool. We'll give him something better than Kwame Brown.
A little Kwame action. Hey, speaking of which, I know we were talking about this earlier. Let's sidetrack right off the bat. You know, on this day, Kobe Bryant and Kwame Brown, one of the most iconic duos of all time, scored 84 points in a game.
They scored 81, 84.
Kobe Bryant, of course.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant scored 81 and Kwame scored 3. So, yeah, you know, it sounds about like a relationship.
Hey. Hey, well, I ain't never passing you the rock, so I'm going to get my 81. It's all good. But, you know, that was a historic night. It came against my Toronto Raptors, too. So, you know, 81 for Kobe Bryant on this very day that we're recording. You know, tribute, and props to the GOAT.
A little shout out to the Mamba.
You ain't called?
That's some good work.
You're not going to call him the GOAT?
No, that's for another podcast.
All right. Well, what do we got on the docket today, Jordan? What do you want to talk about first?
Today on the list, more Golden State Warrior talks as the 5th Infinity Stone is finally added to Steve Kerr's gauntlet.
Uh-oh.
Boogie is back.
Uh-oh.
Followed up by a little remix action from some old teammates making up after the breakup. Figuring out about why we need to stay away from professional athletes with our phones. Talking about the Memphis Grizzlies. Is it time to blow it up? And then, of course, we finish off with our favorite topic from last week. James Harden, still going strong, still offensively dominating. Does that mean that this is a shoe-in for MVP, even with their record? Stay tuned to find out. Raj, where are we going first?
All right, man, let's talk about Boogie. We got a bit of a Boogie. Yeah, we got a funky beat going on in the back. You know, Boogie Cousins is back. As you mentioned, it's that final Infinity Stone that is dropped into Steve Kerr's gauntlet.
We're in the end game now.
Yo, this is scary. This is scary, right? The rest of the league, we should just cancel the season. It's over. Like, Boogie looks good coming back. Like, he's been out with that torn Achilles. Was it torn Achilles? And now he is back on the court, and they have rolled out for the first time in like 40 years a lineup that consists of a starting 5 with 5 All-Stars. Like, Jordan, like, should we plan the parade for the Golden State Warriors? What do you think of this return?
I mean, has it been the first time in league history that there's been 5 former All-Stars in a starting lineup? Really, there's no veteran guy that also was an All-Star.
No, it was
ever in the history. That's amazing.
No, first time in 40 years. The Celtics had it way back in the 70s.
Oh, my bad. That's what I thought. I thought Bill Russell would have had something together.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should all be scared, but I really don't think that we should roll out the parade just yet. Obviously, 5 All-Stars is a huge accomplishment for them, but you got to look at that first game that they played with Boogie in the starting lineup. 15 minutes, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 3 of 4 shooting from downtown. He took most of his shots from the outside, finishing with a plus 21 on the night. Boogie's gained a little bit of cushion for the push-in. The boy's a little bit bigger, totally justified after a huge injury like a torn Achilles, but a little bit slow. Watching his games coming back, haven't been able to utilize him to his full potential. Next game back when Golden State was playing the Lakers last night, he played 21 minutes. Got a little bit more into the rhythm there, but once again, 2 for 9, but still finishing with a plus 24. So definitely think that him being added is scary, but I still don't know if this is going to mean the end of NBA basketball this year. Golden State has climbed to the top of the standings in the West, but I think there is definitely some ability to beat them because Boogie's not at full strength. Raj, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't played any legit teams so far. I mean, no disrespect to the Lakers, but without Rondo, without LeBron James, and without Lonzo Ball, who got injured in this game, they really didn't stand a chance. So I'd like to see this Warriors team take on a real challenge before we kind of anoint them as undisputed champions of the world, even though, many teams were doing that without Cousins in the lineup anyways. But there may be a case to what you're saying if, a team like Houston forces Golden State to match up with them. If they just get Boogie off the court and, they play their 5-man as PJ Tucker like they're doing a lot of times, they could basically force the Warriors into getting Boogie off the court and keeping him off the court.
How ironic would that be to beat the Warriors going with a small ball? Playing the small ball and beating the Warriors with a smaller lineup than they could ever try and play.
Yeah, it's funny how the Warriors no longer have a small ball lineup, really. It's Boogie, Draymond, Durant, who are all, big guys with Curry and Clay in the backcourt as per usual. They're
by
big.
no means small guards either. That's a tall starting lineup. There is really not a lot they can do, defensively against other teams that really, has a mismatch. I think they have the ability to switch onto almost most positions, from 5-4-3 or 1-2-3 down and without any issue.
Totally, and I think the only hope that people really have is if Boogie's not up to full strength and not up to being the same player that he was last season, which would basically allow them to, because if he's the same player that he was last year, he'd be able to punish any small ball lineups down low. But if he just doesn't have that kind of foot speed anymore, and he just doesn't have that ability in the post and to, kind of punish people from the perimeter too, then the Warriors are going to run into problems. But, early returns look pretty promising. The Warriors are already, like you mentioned, back to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, trailing only the Raptors and the Milwaukee Bucks as far as record goes in the league. And they haven't even hit their final form yet, Jordan. So it'll be interesting to see.
Isn't even my final form.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, okay, let's talk about the team and some of the players that had actually taken down this Warriors team way back in the day. We had some Kyrie Irving and LeBron James news this past week.
Big news.
Yeah.
Big news.
Yeah, it's no secret that Kyrie and LeBron had quite a falling out when Kyrie left Cleveland to go to Boston. And the Celtics, they've been struggling. They've been struggling quite a bit lately. And Kyrie Irving is feeling the pressure of having to be the leader in that locker room. And he pointed out after one of their games here this past week, because, earlier in this week, actually, he was saying that it's the young guys' fault that they've been losing all these games and they don't know how to win yet, and he has to teach them how to win and all this. And Kyrie Irving, he actually said he reached out to LeBron, and he called LeBron, and he apologized for the way that he was acting in Cleveland, and saying that he didn't understand what it took to really lead a team back then. And he was that young guy that wanted everything in his fingertips and wanted the world just handed to him, and wanted his own team. And now he understands that pressure of being a leader. So, Jordan, what are your thoughts on Kyrie Irving coming out and saying all this about, being a leader, and, how he apologizes to LeBron for the way he acted?
Well, for one thing, I just want to bring up that the irony of this situation, from what I heard from media sources, is that LeBron was apparently with Kevin Love.
Yeah.
When Kyrie Irving phoned.
Yeah, I read that too.
Two guys were his sidekicks over in Cleveland when they won their lone championship. So, there is one thing to be said about, so you're a young guy, like you said, I want the ball at my fingertips, I wanted to be the number one option. And then he got traded over to Boston, and now he is the number one option. And now you got to look and go, yeah, but Boston is losing games now. Boston is losing games now. And with losing games comes people pointing fingers. And we got a lot of young kids around on the roster, talented guys. They're all wondering why they're not getting more touches, because they think if they could, they'd be winning games. So Kyrie didn't call LeBron until things started to go belly up in Boston. Even though it's not completely underwater yet, the panic button has been set, and Coach Brad Stevens has been mixing his lineups frequently, trying to find the winning combination each and every night. So I give a little bit of a, shame on you, Kyrie, as far as why wait so long to make you figure this out. LeBron obviously is looking for his, but LeBron is looking for his in the sense of being a team player as well. What he does on the court makes everyone better. Raj, what you think?
Yeah, you know what? I honestly did not appreciate Kyrie's comments, because it was kind of a backhanded, compliment to some of his teammates, or insult. He was blaming the young guys for them not playing as well, and he's like, "Oh, I need to do a better job of understanding how to lead these guys." But hey, man, it's not just the young guys. You can take some of the blame himself too, and that's something Jaylen Brown came out in public and said, no, it's not just the young guys. It's everybody's fault. We're a team. Can't really pin this on one person. But this that's just something I didn't appreciate about Kyrie's comments.
That's the difference between Kyrie and LeBron. I feel like Kyrie has always been about him. Yeah. And how he said, I'm the number one option, so I gotta figure it out. But you know what? You have a good point with Jaylen Brown saying it's a team effort, guys. We gotta work at it as a team. No one thing Kyrie can do as a leader. He can, try his best in the locker room. He's gonna try and be a vocal guy, but he's gotta get his team more involved. And I think that goes more than just Kyrie Irving and touches and trying to score, the most points in clutch, which he's been doing at a crazy pace this year and playing considerably well. Sample sizes include the Toronto Raptors, which he completely tore apart in the last 6 minutes. They had no answer for him. But basketball's a team sport. That's all there is to it. LeBron gets that. And I think LeBron has always gotten that.
Yeah, he has gotten that. And like you said, Kyrie doesn't really have that same maturity at this stage. And I thought, it's interesting because Jaylen Brown, he probably feels like he should be playing more. This same team with Jaylen Brown, they made it to the conference finals last season. And Jaylen was playing a big role for them. And now for them to basically be like, nah, you take a back seat, Kyrie is back, and you're relegated to a role player, basically, like, that would piss me off too, man. I'm like, hey, I contributed all last season and brought this team to the conference finals. Now you just want me to step back? Like, nah, he feels that he can do more, and I think Brad Stevens has an interesting job ahead of him because they have not lived up to expectations at all.
Nope. You know what? I think that's the thing. You've got a huge issue in your locker room because you've literally got Scary Terry, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all guys who just stepped up and in a huge way and won a lot of games. So now it's like, well, no, why don't you go with what worked last year? Why do we have to go with this? And that's the issue.
Mm-hmm. Totally, man. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They currently have the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, and would have a date with the Philadelphia 76ers, I believe, in the first round again if the playoffs ended.
Do you see them jumping over the likes of Indiana and Philadelphia to get home court advantage in the first round?
I don't see it because those teams, Philly and Indiana, I feel like a lot of the similar players, like they have a lot of the same leaders in that locker room as they did last year. Whereas Boston's going through quite a bit of changes here. So I think those teams they'll stay steady. I think it'll shake out similar. I could see Indiana and Philly kind of trading back and forth for that 3-4 spot. But I don't see Boston getting a home court advantage at this stage.
No, I really don't. No, yeah. I really don't.
All right, well, Jordan, let's shift gears a little bit. We talked about some things on the court. Let's talk about something that happened off the court this past week. You may know a gentleman by the name of Swaggy P.
Swaggy P. Yeah. Is this guy still relevant? Are we still talking about him?
Yes, Mr. Azalea is, nah, I'm kidding. Swaggy P.
Mr. Azalea.
He's had a rough go since being released by the Denver Nuggets. It was just reported that this past week, a fan approached Swaggy P. And he said, hey, Swaggy, can I take a photo? And he's like, nah, man, I'm not feeling it today. I don't want any photos. So this fan decided to get in his face anyways and take a photo with him. So Swaggy P proceeded to kick this man in his basketballs, take his phone, and run off. Jordan, do you condone such behavior by Swaggy P? Was he justified in attacking that fan who took his photo without his permission?
He's a free man. He's a free man in the free world. But by that means the man taking the photo of Swaggy P is also a free man in the same free world. So therefore, they are both allowed to do whatever they want within the confines of law. With that being said, assaulting another human being because they took a photo of you is not legal. So I kind of have to side with the photographer. Was the photographer a dick? Yeah. Was the photographer shouldn't have done that? Definitely, yeah. Respect someone's personal space. But, you know what, Swaggy? You an NBA player. You ain't a superstar, but you a popular celebrity figure based on your actions.
Yeah, I feel like this dude was definitely being a dick. When somebody doesn't want you to take a photo of them and you go and do it anyways, it's a man's privacy. Maybe it was a young, immature fan. Because, Jordan, I know that we've had a similar incident happen with us out in Vancouver, if you recall, a few years back.
No. You had a similar incident. I respected people's distance and space.
Alright, so, yeah, if you recall, we were out in Vancouver the night before the Sacramento Kings game against the Toronto Raptors. And at that time, Boogie and Mr. Rudy Gay were playing for the Sacramento Kings, and we saw them out on Granville Street out at maybe 2:30 a.m. in the morning. And
the game day, literally they're going to play in 12 hours.
In 12 hours they had a game. Yeah, so we're like, hey, yo, we love you guys. Can we get a photo? And like, nah, man, no photos. So, what does my cousin Rajit proceed to do? He proceeds to put his arm around Rudy Gay, congratulate the man on the birth of his child, which was creepy enough, but apparently Rudy Gay missed Rajit's fantasy basketball playoff game because of the birth of this child. So Rajit knew all about it, and he knew the kid's name, and then he proceeded to take multiple selfies with Rudy Gay with his arm around his shoulder, completely disregarding his personal space and his privacy.
Your cousin lucky that he didn't have a black eye after something like that. Rudy Gay is a big dude.
Yeah,
he's a big dude. He's NBA body. That's nothing to mess around with.
You know what? He's lucky. He's lucky he didn't put his arm around Boogie Cousins, because I know he would not be so happy taking those selfies as Rudy Gay was. Big shout out to Rudy Gay. You're a class act. For letting us be complete that night. And we apologize. I apologize.
Let the record state that I was not. I was at home. I was at home sleeping because I had to go to church in the morning, early morning church service before the game.
Yeah, you a golden boy for sure. All right, Jordan. Let's go to the next topic, man. We're approaching the trade deadline. If you haven't noticed.
Favorite time of the regular season, the trade deadline. Ooh.
Yeah.
What you got for me, Raj?
Well, news out of Memphis, the team formerly known as the Vancouver Grizzlies, is that they are now entertaining trade offers for their two superstars, Marc Gasol and Mike Conley. Jordan, do you see these two players getting moved and getting dealt before the NBA trade deadline that's coming up next month?
Mike Conley and Marc Gasol? No. Mike Conley, Marc Gasol? Yes. Absolutely. And the only reason I say so is because their contracts are massive. And there is a lot of run still left on those contracts. We're talking over 3 years for Mike Conley and over 2 years for Marc Gasol. And wow, fully effective right now on a team where they get all of the touches and all of the resources they need to succeed. Well, the team isn't performing at a high level to make the playoffs. That's not going to be the situation when they get traded to a contender, if they get traded to a contender. So you can imagine that you've got a guy either coming off the bench or your third or fourth option making over $25 million a year. Good God, that scares most GMs away in my mind. However, I think with the NBA's current landscape, somebody may be willing to pull the trigger on this. I mean, we look at Jimmy Butler getting moved twice in 2 years. Now, apparently he's happy with his home in Philadelphia, but still Jimmy Butler, right? So, I mean, I don't see a landing spot in my head yet. I keep thinking about teams that could use their services. I mean, Miami is definitely one of these guys on the fringe. I mean, you look at, Brooklyn trying to make a big splash. Detroit's still talking to people, trying to get their point guard's situation resolved. I mean, that's kind of who I see right now in these middle tiers trying to make this big reach. I don't think these upper echelon teams, the Denvers, Indiana, Toronto even, would try to make a play for these two types of players. Raj, what do you think? Both? All? Nothing? And then who do you think they're going to?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see where they get moved to. It's definitely tough to move contracts that big, especially mid-season. But like you mentioned, Miami's actually an interesting landing spot. They're kind of in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference playoff race. They've got some big contracts for people that they've signed out throughout the years here, and capped themselves out at. And they've got some very unhappy players in Wayne Ellington and Dion Waiters that are kind of looking to be dealt somewhere. So that is definitely a potential option. I could definitely see them moving Marc Gasol. I think it'd be a little tough for them to move Conley and Gasol. I agree with you there. I think maybe one of them gets dealt, and I think it's going to be Marc Gasol, and I think they're going to go with more of a youth movement going forward here, and let Jaren Jackson Jr., their stud forward, take over that center role full time. So
that's a tough one. I mean, J-Cube has really been playing well at the power forward spot. So to think that, putting him in center is going to be better for him, maybe as he gets older, but I don't think it needs to happen now. And you got to realize that, while you are looking at a rebuild, understand that rebuilds don't happen by plugging a bunch of young players in. You need veteran presence. You need guys who know how the game is played, know how to keep your body in shape, and know how to play at that elite level for an extended period of time. Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, perfect examples of that. So trading away those guys, you may have an issue. You may have an issue, a similar issue to what Chicago is facing right now. And, Minnesota, too, in an aspect, just, having some issues trying to make playoffs. So, a good example that I want to bring up is the Orlando Magic. Always looking at every opportunity I can to diss the Orlando Magic. They went with this youth movement after Dwight Howard and really didn't have a lot of veteran presence that could speak volumes to them in terms of what it takes to be a good NBA team or franchise. And now we look at them, 2019? So over 7 years after the Dwight Howard trade, still no playoffs. So veteran presence is important. Is it worth $20 million? Time will tell. We'll see.
Yeah, totally, man. All right, well, let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks for sure. We'll keep an eye on that one. And, Jordan, the last topic I want to talk to you about today is the beard, James Harden. James Harden is continuing his absolutely amazing run. He has now got the second longest streak of consecutive 30-point games. Jordan, is James Harden a lock for the MVP this season?
A lock for MVP?
Oh, yeah.
Lock. But I definitely think that he is in the conversation. Reasons being, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, if that guy didn't sit so much, it wasn't so goddamn resting all the time. I think there's just a lot of challenge here to try and make James Harden the lock, the leader, because there are so many other guys that do talented things for their teams that seem to have more dividends. Because what is an MVP to you, Raj? What is the definition of the MVP? Most valuable player for their team? Most valuable player in terms of statistics? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's got to be somebody that's on a winning team that is putting up, amazing numbers, some of the best numbers in the league, and there's a lot of drama that goes into this too. There's got to be a story, and I think James Harden's got a nice story here. He's promoting himself. He's leading this team of misfits and random G League players to win after win lately. Like, Jordan, I was watching one of the games last week, and I didn't even recognize like two or three of the guys on the court for them, and I was like, who even is that? Like, and James Harden is just out here leading these random guys to victories. Sure, they had a little blip against the Philadelphia 76ers this last week, but before that, man, they'd been on an absolute tear, including that big come-from-behind victory against the Lakers this past week, where Harden dropped 48 points. And if he had scored two more, that would have been 3 straight games with over 50 points for him, Jordan. It would have been amazing.
Well, let's talk about the other great scorers in the history of the NBA. First ones that come to mind, obviously, like Jordan being the transcendent talent that he was. Thinking about Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, like Allen Iverson. These guys only won MVPs, not a shoe-in every year, but every year they were the most dominant in terms of points. Tracy McGrady, another Houston Rocket. There's another guy. I mean, we talk about Shaq and Kobe both getting beat out by Steve Nash 1 year for MVP. Steve Nash averaging incredibly efficient shooting numbers and was given the MVP based on his team finishing first overall, whereas Kobe's Lakers were more like 6th or 7th that year. I'd have to double check. I can't remember. Houston, their last 10 is 5-5, Raj. Yes, transcendent talent, but not transcending into the win column to the top of the West. Granted, the West is very challenging. Granted, I agree with you completely. Who he played for is a daily struggle watching Houston Rocket games right now. But, I just think that over time in history, I think whoever does the NBA voting has shown that it's not always about these individual stats when they're not translating over to team wins.
Okay, well, who else do you have in the conversation if it's not James Harden? Because, it'd be tough to give it to one of the Warrior players. Just singling out a specific one may be a little difficult. Kawhi Leonard has missed a lot of games.
To Steph. Give it to Steph and Kevin. Give it to co-MVPs.
Co-MVPs on the same team.
You heard it. What a crazy phenomenon, considering they're both averaging over 28 points a game right now.
Yeah, considering the Warriors run the NBA.
Yeah, that's right. Like I said, other guys I'm looking at is, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard, if he wasn't so banged up and injured all the time, would definitely be in this conversation. I mean, what? Do you want me to give it to Luka Doncic and just, let's just start his reign of terror on the NBA now? Like, what do you want? What do you want?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll hold off on one more season before we give Luka the MVP. I think his potential All-Star campaign this year will be enough for the rookie. Kawhi's an interesting one, yeah, because he's been injured a lot and he sat out a lot of games, so it'd be tough. And Paul George has been making a nice case.
Why don't you give it to Anthony Davis if you want to talk about MVPs? Well, yeah, Paul George, that's an even better one. I agree with you. Paul George would be a great model for MVP. That guy has been playing out of his mind this year for Oklahoma City.
Yeah, it's that'd be cool. Then they could also have two MVPs on their team, two former MVPs. Paul George and Russell Westbrook. I know people say a lot about the Warriors and the fact that they have that, but the Oklahoma City Thunder, they got a good thing rolling this year, and we'll see how far that takes them. But I think the biggest challenger to James Harden for this thing will probably be Giannis. If the Bucks continue to be the team with the best record in the entire NBA, I think that Giannis makes a good case for his first MVP, which by the looks of it might not be his last in the NBA.
Hey, but why do we got to ignore Golden State Warriors? Why do we got to ignore Steph and Durant at this point? Is it because they're on a team with 5 other All-Stars? Is that enough for anyone else to basically say, yeah, these guys don't deserve the MVP? Because look at the talent that's around James Harden, look at the talent that's around Giannis, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest case, and I think the fact that they play on the same team kind of takes away from themselves. It takes away from one another, because if they had their own teams, they'd be getting a lot more opportunity, and because it's kind of hard to even know who's the best player on that team. Is it Curry? Is it Durant? You can have that argument all day. Is it a healthy Boogie Cousins?
I'm ready to have that argument. I'm ready. Whenever you're ready, meet me on the podcast. I will have the who is better, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant argument.
All right, let's save it for the next pod, Jordan. We're out of time here today.
All right, but just be ready. Bring your A game.
Yeah, I gotta bring my stats.
Like the Golden State Warriors.
All right.
I'll bring the Golden State Warriors. I'll dominate. I got 5 All-Star stats for you, ready to go.
Oh man, you've been doing your research.
Somebody's got to.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. All right, Jordan, wrap this up, man. Tell the people where they can find us.
Right. This has been another fabulous episode of the Give and Go podcast with your hosts, Jordan Taylor and Rajan Sharma. Remember, you can always find us on your favorite social medias, Facebook, Twitter, or even Instagram now, at Give the Letter N Go Podcast. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube, Google Play Store, and on iTunes, or wherever your favorite podcasts can be found, including Podcast Addict. Don't forget to check out our one and only sponsor, basketballers.ca, a new basketball blog that is posting digital content weekly for your viewing and enjoyment pleasure.
Yeah, what did we release recently?
Now remember,
hey, we just to talk about that a little bit, we got a great article up by Drayton Power right now talking about the impact of LeBron James and how his teams have done with and without him on the court. So definitely tune into that one. And Adam,
tune into reading blog posts now, right, Raj? You can tune into those. We can't just read them.
Oh no, you tune in, man. It's a full HD 4G experience here, Jordan. 4K, whatever you want to call them, whatever these kids are talking about these days. And we got a weekly, 5K. we got weekly power rankings as well coming out from Adam Kroon. So make sure you tune into that too.
Oh my goodness, so much fresh, unfiltered, unbiased content for NBA fans. So remember, kids, we give you the information, now go do something with it. Give and go.
And we out.